In this video, I'm gonna talk about Yakuza Kiwami. Duty calls, work awaits me. I got a one-eyed psychopath to beat up 50 times in a row. But I am getting ahead of myself. Your name is Kazuma Kiryu. Despite your antics of shoving firecrackers into people's mouths, stabbing them in the stomach with a knife dipped in chili pepper, and kicking car doors closed onto the heads of roaming gangsters, you make it a point of pride in that you have never killed anybody. It is for this reason that you take the fall for your best friend, who has actually killed somebody. Fast forward 10 years later, you are fresh out of jail, and all the abilities you gained in Yakuza 0 are gone. Not just that, but the dancing minigame is gone, the Sega arcade games are gone, all your friends turned into complete assholes, and you are no longer the protagonist of the story. You are undeniably the player character, but your role is relegated to being the friend with the third-party controller, while your arch-enemy Goro Majima steals all the spotlight, and you cannot play him either. You heard me. He was fully playable in Yakuza 0, and meanwhile this game, which came out later on the same codebase, decided to take even that feature away. It makes sense for storyline purposes, and whoever is playing this title as their entry into the series will never notice anything wrong, but the rest of us who have played Zero and seen the light know full well that it would not have killed Sega to at least make the guy into a playable character after the end of the storyline, if only to run around and pick fights with a few poor bastards. It does not help that this remake puts him up in your face at every single opportunity, up to and including starting up unavoidable fights anytime and anywhere without your consent. There will be plenty of incidents in which the fight will quite simply start on its own and you have zero opportunity to get away, so you better get used to carrying a full stack of inventory to weather the storm, because you will be playing a game of whoever has got the most healing items on hand, because the piece of shit can self-heal. You heard me once more. The bosses in this game can heal themselves in the middle of a fight, and no amount of punching and kicking you do in the meantime will cancel that away. That is, unless you have unlocked the abilities that specifically cancel the self-heal mechanic, and you have enough magic bar to do the ability at the right time, or you have an item on hand to replenish your magic bar so that you can do the ability when the time comes. None of that is strictly complicated at the base, but the principle alone is offensive, and you know right off the bat that whoever goes on the internet to pick fights will happily go on GameFAQs forums to tell the complainers to just do X and Y and to stop complaining. Fuck off. I am not calling that bad game design so much as dog whistling for trolls who salivate and grab their dick with both hands and both feet at the prospect of shutting down all of their perceived online enemies with the one-size-fits-none clapback that is politely credible only in the eyes of members of their own political party. So, your course of action is to carry enough weapons to fail a stop and search without the need of a pat-down, until you manage to find the one ability in the game that is so utterly broken that it makes mincemeat out of anything and everything, and you stop countering the self-heal mechanic simply because you cannot be asked to push the button to switch to the right fighting style for the occasion anymore. By the time you reach that point, your battles with Majima will last 1 minute instead of 5, but the joke, of course, is getting to that point in the first place. Until that happens, you have to wait for the asshole to finish his 30-second spinny top move in order to get a couple punches in, and mind your health carefully because some of the enemies can casually take out half of your health bar. And that is if you have a fully upgraded health bar. Meanwhile, you discover health bar colors that you did not even know existed on your enemies. Let me give you the answer right away from last to first. Orange, yellow, green, blue, lavender, and there might be even more because I have not fought the traditional secret boss yet, and I have no intention to. Why should I? I am not the main guy in the story. I simply happen to be passing along, minding my own business, and trying to live a normal life. I am Majima's NPC to play with. Any normal video game since time immemorial understands that the rules for the player are different than the rules that the other characters must follow, because one has to take into account the reality of player reaction times, the way the storyline unfolds, and the fantasy of feeling like a hero. So you would think that it would be the same in this instance. Wrong again, fuckboy. Those special moves that use up your magic meter and your enemies cannot avoid, the bosses can do those as well. To you. And you cannot avoid them either. They do a pitiful amount of damage, and they are some way to perhaps communicate that the fight is special and serious, but you still get pulled into the unenviable spectacle of watching yourself get your ass beat for 10 seconds, and there is nothing you can do about it. If that move comes with a QuickTime event, then you better push the right buttons, or else you will absolutely have your limbs and your genitals get ground into fine powder. This has to be the first time I download a DLC that actually removes features. I know what I said. It says on the store page that this is a full-fledged game. That is bullshit. This is a DLC for Yakuza 0. Anybody who has played Yakuza 0 has no reason to look at this. Anybody who has not played Yakuza 0 has every reason to get Yakuza 0 and not this. Both games have the exact same regular price point, so the only reason this one exists is to fool the unaware and increase my heart rate. No matter which of the two games you grab, you will have access to games of shogi, mahjong, karaoke, a handful of standard casino games, some Asian gambling games, bowling, baseball, darts, and pool. They are virtually unchanged from one installment to the next, and indicate pretty obviously that the two installments share a common base of assets. Controls consist of light attacks, heavy attacks, dodging, blocking, grabbing, taunting, locking onto enemies, and switching fighting styles on the go to prioritize speed or power. If you leave the difficulty on standard, you can pretty much get away with button mashing to combo the common foes out of commission and spend your spoons and your big brain thoughts on the bosses. If you want to make your job even easier against the bosses, you will want to consume as much of the side content as possible before you move the story forward, just for the sake of unlocking enough upgrades to make the next chapter a walk in the park. Some of the items very nearly break the game by taking it from tedious to easy, and if all you seek in your life is to simply have a good time, then first stop playing this, but if you are intent on continuing, then grab everything that is not nailed down and equip whatever happens to have the biggest numbers next to it. Supposing that you complete the story, most side quests, and check out most of the minigames at least once, then you have content to last you 39 hours and a half, which so happens to coincide with all that is required to legally put in a week of work at minimum wage while reaping none of the full-time benefits. Filling this week of labor will be the constant sensation that you have been invited to a party in which you are not a participant, so much as you are an easy target made to reinforce the skills and the glory of somebody else. You do have the option of improving yourself and surmounting the challenge in order to beat the pretentious asshole at his own game, but when the path to this improvement is barely even fun in the first place, it means the story was less about winning and more about making someone else lose. And for what profit is it to a man if he gains the world and loses his own soul? Matthew 16:26, I believe. In short, this game is the neighborhood kid who actually owns the copy of Street Fighter 2.